you weren't going to let cancer define you, but you were going to let it be part of your story. And Maria, welcome to the call. I'm so excited that you're here. I brought Maria on to talk about the power of words and how we can reframe our stories so that we can access resilience and our resilience. And just so you know a little bit about Maria, everyone, she's an inspirational speaker, a licensed psychologist who has worked in the fields of wellness and positive psychology for more than 20 years. Wow. And her passion is telling stories of hope. And she's a great storyteller, so if we have time, we'll have to get her to tell us a story, maybe a quick one. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Mandy, Maria. And you've just heard her sing and tell her story. Can you tell us about the impact of inspirational stories like Mandy's on the human spirit?
Well, first of all, I want you to know I put my little sparkles on because just being close to Mandy feels like such a privilege and an honor. Thank you. Thank you for the gorgeousness of your gift, Mandy. Our any story can serve the purpose of inspiring us to grow and become wiser and fuller and more courageous in ourselves. And a story like Mandy's it's such a beautiful journey of a heroine, a young girl who has a dream and has the courage to pursue her dream, and the booby like encouraging her on and taking those risks, all the risks along the way. I mean, I don't know about you, Mandy, but I imagine auditions are a very vulnerable kind of thing, right? And you never know of the millions of people.
And they never stop.
And they never stop, right? And so that, that capacity to persevere and seek the dream. And then what happens in life, right, Caroline? Life has its way with us, and our way becomes shattered, or there's suddenly a left turn that we're forced to go down. And in that turning and in that shattering, we are asked, all human beings are asked to make a decision about the choice to lead into the darker wood, like the darker wood of cancer or the darker wood of violence on the street, the darker wood of what's happening in our country, the darker wood of the pandemic. We have the choice to lead ourselves into that and choose resilience, which Mandy clearly has, by choosing to face it and take care of her body and also cultivate healing of the soul and the spirit, or to allow the thing to become larger than us.
Wow. Your field is positive psychology and resilience. And you're also interested in the power of words. There is that little word "and" that you like to use so much. Can you talk to us about like the pond and the swamp and a little bit about the dark and the light in this regards?
So positive psychology essentially asks one foundational question: who might we be at our best? Or who are we at our best? And in the resilience field, the question we ask is, who are we at our best in the most difficult moments? And it turns out we do well when we live into the and, when we let go of either or black and white thinking, and really keep our perspective a place of wholeness. And so I was speaking to you behind the scenes earlier that Jerome Groopman, who's a medical oncologist at MGH, helps us understand that true hope in the presence of a diagnosis rests in that capacity to face reality as it is. Yes, I do have breast cancer, but don't stay stuck there. To build in an and on the other side of the and, we have to move toward a slightly better future, which you, Mandy, whoever has the diagnosis, gets to decide what that means for themselves. What does a slightly better future look like for me? And what he's pointing to is the same research that we've uncovered in the field of resilience and positive psychology, which is those of us who are resilient have the capacity to face what is true and to take action toward building a better future. And what that helps us do, Caroline, to go back to story, it helps us actually narrate our own journey. We have the story that is our living up till now. And at the same time, always, 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 we are in media res, in the middle of a story. And we get to decide where the story is going to take us. So the and sort of opens up the path to possible better futures that are self-determined.
I love that.
Isn't that great? That
Yes,
little
I love
word,
that.
just 3 letters, and
Mhm.
and it also can be used in relationship to the pond and the swamp.
Oh, right. You love that metaphor. Yes, I love that
I
metaphor.
do.
Okay, so let me ask Mandy directly. Mandy,
Sure.
just tell me one thing that made today stressful for you.
I had to go get a COVID screening because I'm starting another part of my journey, and that was stressful to have that.
Fair enough.
Just there.
Just that. Caroline, one thing that was stressful for your day today.
Just figuring out how I was going to address this horrendous situation we're in, with this violent situation, in a way that made sense for my team so that we could function today.
Thank you. And one of the things that was stressful for me, I'm going to go the other extreme. The painters didn't show up, right? Well,
Right.
and every day, I metaphorically call this the swamp. Every day has a swamp. Every day before COVID-19 had swampy things. Every day after COVID-19 is going to have swampy things, right? For Mandy, every day before diagnosis had some swampy stuff to it. The subway, auditions, taking care of your child, school, homework, etc., right? Every day has a swamp. And now let me ask you, Mandy, one thing that made this day a day that you're grateful for.
I really took a moment to, when I got home, to be present with my daughter, and she gave me a big hug and asked me if I wanted a quesadilla for lunch, and just I could just see how much it meant to her that I was present for her just in that one moment, and that was like my whole day. Like
Beautiful.
everything was better.
Yeah. The hug, the quesadilla, the
Yes.
presence, the love. Yeah. Caroline, one thing that made your day today a day worth having.
Working out with my good friend Tori
Working out with Tori.
on Zoom.
On
Yeah.
Zoom, right? The Zoom move, right? Yeah. And for me, I got a call from an old colleague who I loved working with, and hopefully we'll get to work together again. So notice the variety, right? The swamps, our swamps are unique. The appreciative side, we call the pond. Our ponds are unique. It's a hug, a quesadilla, and love. It's working out with a friend. It's connection to a colleague. And what we come to understand is that reality really is the wholeness of both of them. And that resilient folk acknowledge the swamp, do what we can to manage it, heal it, cure it, fix it, etc. And we actually put most of our time and energy toward the pond. The most resilient of us cultivate the good within ourselves, notice and savor the good outside of ourselves, and try to bring goodness to our world, whatever the world is that we inhabit, the part of the world that we inhabit. So swamp and pond is the perspective that resilient folk hold. We don't deny reality, but neither do we deny the reality of the pond.
Beautiful.
Wow.
And isn't that great?
Oh yeah, I've taken notes. I hope everybody else out there has taken notes, because this is just like things I want to think about every day.
Yeah.
You know, it changes your day when you think like that.
Yeah. And also, it's also important to know about the negativity bias of the brain. In fact, I would love for you to address, Maria, this "I have cancer, it must be my fault" narrative. And just let's debunk that right now. And why that's, first of all, it's not useful. And second of all, it's not true. But we have a negativity bias in our brain. And how does that impact that story and that narrative?
So, the brain is hardwired for fear and anxiety because it helps us as a species survive, right? And we want that. We want part of our brain to be helpful in terms of danger out there. However, we don't want it to be making up stories that aren't true. And we know that culturally there can be a story that we feel absolutely 100% responsible for any disease or diagnosis that comes our way. I was, talking with Mandy before about in the 70s, it was believed that women who had cancer, had suppressed their anger, and it's only they'd expressed their anger more, cancer wouldn't have come. And, and cancer diseases are multifactorial. That's just how they are. And what happens is when we tell a story where we've catastrophized or we've jumped to a conclusion or we've taken it personally, like it's all my fault, it sets us up for not only negative thinking, but negative responses, feelings that actually create non-resilient behavior. We armor up, we numb out, we deny, we overwork to try and sort of address the deficit within us, like insane self-help improvement. And it doesn't leave us in a place of actual resilience. And this place of resilience is actually where we can hold both. I have fear, anxiety, worry. I have crazy thoughts in my head about why I got cancer. And I can take a breath and choose healthful, constructive action. I can take choices. I can make choices on behalf of my own well-being that are actually resilient and life-giving.
And one final question. I mean, I could talk to Maria.
Oh my gosh. When you said take a breath, I was like I felt like we went right back to oh, that was great. Sorry.
Yeah. Final question, Maria, for you. How might someone living with cancer create a story of hope out of a diagnosis?
So hope has this gorgeous sort of emotional resonance to us. When we even imagine hope or rest into a feeling of hope, our emotions are elevated and we want to experience that. And what's fascinating, though, is that hope is actually cultivated by taking positive action. So one of the ways we build in the pond or the focus on the pond is I invite people to, wherever you are in your diagnosis or your journey surviving cancer, to go to sleep at night and just ask yourself one simple question. What was the best moment of the day? This is like really activating the pond, and just savor it. You don't even have to journal about it. Just name it and savor it. And what would happen is if you did that 30 nights in a row, you would learn that every day, no matter how dark the day, has a best moment. And because you're in the day, knowing you have your homework to do at night, you'll start looking for best moments and you'll start seeing them. They are there every day. This world is filled with wonder, beneficence, awe, love, generosity, kindness, sweetness, creativity, justice, fierceness, perseverance, etc. And if we, for 30 nights in a row, also begin to focus on best moment of the day, we start actually firing and wiring together those neurochemicals that elevate optimism, energy, vitality, and so on. So we can change the story of our experience with cancer by changing where we put our attention. It doesn't mean we're not going to suffer. Suffering is part of the journey. What it means, however, is that we become little by little larger than the suffering. We hold it in the same way that Mandy said she didn't want cancer to be the whole of her story, a part of her existence.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Maria.
Ah,
it's just been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Yes.